Paul, there's so many ways I want to go with this because of the magnitude of the game that was billed. But as we always see, it's not typically the games that we build and end up being the story. And that's why I want to start with in the swamp, because I thought, and numerous people thought, I had said it publicly, and I'm sure you did as well, I thought that was the most ripe for an upset based on two things. One, what we had seen out of Texas coming in, and two, Billy Napier finds a way every year, backs against the wall to get a win to kind of elevate the confidence in Gainesville. We saw it at the Swamp yesterday. Dallas Wilson, DJ Lagway, and the Gators take down Arch Manning in Texas.
Matt, what was so interesting was the atmosphere down there on our Saturday show. I was just simply trying to be nice, understanding where I was. So I said something like, even though Billy Napier is struggling and his job is apparently on the line, the fans down here still really like him. And they started booing me when I said that, chanting, "Fire Billy, fire Billy." And I'm like, so that was the students' attitude going into this game. Obviously, all fans want to see a win, and they got it. And it was not unpredictable because Texas has been a mess for the entire seasons. But yeah, now we're right back to where we were last year. Like, what do you do with Billy Napier? And there's 3 losses. They had a 4-game stretch where I didn't see how they were going to win any of them, even though Texas looked like the easiest. Now they go to A&M. And if that loss goes down, it's 4 because they blew the USF game. And I'm just simply doing the math. It was a great win for the program. I'm not sure how much it means.
So it's a good point because, look, my stance on Billy Napier is, and I'll say this about the guy, like when he's doing his sideline interviews, he's doing his media interviews, he comes off as just so likable. And he's a guy that you're like, this is someone you want to root for. And that remains the same this morning. He's recruited well because he's got some young pieces in place. They've had some inexcusable losses where I think the hot seat started to get warm and then a little bit more. I've gone on record as saying last year's 8-5 season's as good as 8-5 you're going to get. But Paul, if we're going to be honest about the Florida situation before we hop into the Texas one, based on what they have, you said they're at Texas A&M, who got a nice win last night against a scrappy Mississippi State team. They go Mississippi State, Georgia, Kentucky. You can win Mississippi State, Kentucky. And you end the season with Ole Miss, Tennessee, Florida State. Let's just say things were just cakes and pies in Gainesville. How good was this team going to be record-wise with that schedule to begin with?
About what we saw last year. And that's why that USF game was so significant, because it upset the apple cart. But now he's gotten that one back, and he's going to have to keep getting games back to survive. It's the atmosphere there. They were already asking about Lane Kiffin yesterday morning. That's standard operating procedure. But I think there's a little bit of optimism now, and there should be. But I wonder how much of this game is really about Florida, Matt, as opposed to about Texas.
Yeah.
I mean, there's no explanation of how inept that program has been, and the only positive thing I saw yesterday was the one play Arch Manning was out of the game.
Oh, you know what's funny about that is that kid came in and he slung a seed for 22 yards when they needed it for a first down. I believe he's a transfer from Troy, one of those Sun Belt quarterbacks that just comes in and doesn't give a damn, a la Joey Aguilar, and just slings it all over the yard. That's for another day. But here's Texas in a nutshell. It's not Sark's fault or Arch's fault when I say this. The expectations put on Texas at the beginning of the season as the number 1 team in the country were just flat out. It was just wrong. They were wrong. They weren't the number 1 team in the country. No one did the work to look at the inexperience that was coming back from Texas. They looked at the glitz and the glamour of the recruiting class and the name on the back of the quarterback's jersey and assigned them the number 1 ranking in the country. Paul, it's evident this is a young team that hasn't played a lot together that needs to find its way, and that's okay. It's okay that they're probably going to be 9-3, 8-4, with a lot of these dudes coming back, and then you can go on a run. I just don't understand. Like, this is who Texas is, and that's fine this year.
Well, I'm not trying to change subjects on you because I was at the tip of that spear, but you could say that about another school too, and I will get to them in a minute. But it just shows you, Matt, how wildly entertaining and how meaningless the preseason is.
Yeah, I say it all the time. Like, I think preseason polls are absolute garbage because you get out there, people rank the teams on last year's bona fides, and they don't sit and look and be like, well, there's a lot of receivers lost to the NFL. They lost some defensive guys, and Texas still has a really good defense, but this is what they don't have. Okay, so let's look at that, and let's look and see how the roster's been turned over and see what they got pieces in place. And no one did that, so everyone's sitting here like, oh, Texas is the worst thing. They're not. They were just put 1 year ahead of where they're going to be. And so it's an upset. But again, ask anyone going into that game, like, Florida's going to win that game. Both teams are coming by. It was Arch Manning's first SEC road start. And I think what happened, I don't know, were you surprised?
No. I mean, really, if you follow college football, you could not have been surprised. That didn't stop a lot of people from reading from the hymnal and saying, well, I think Texas is going to win. And it really had a lot to do with the game ended up being about Texas, but the predictions were based on how bad Florida has been, if that makes any sense whatsoever.
Yeah, well, it's college football. None of it makes sense. I mean, Jerry Neuheisel was the story of the day as an interim offensive coordinator, 33 years old, and was getting carried off the field. So, and that to me was outstanding. But that's college football in a nutshell. Let me ask you this before we move on, because it's starting to become a pet peeve of mine. Do we really think, and again, when we say this is going to live in perpetuity because it's going to be on the internet. Do we really think, let's say that things don't work out for Billy Napier. Why do people in Gainesville think that Lane Kiffin wants to come to the Swamp? I know that's the name that's always connected to it. The man's happy in Ole Miss and he's winning with Division II quarterbacks, and they may go to the playoff.
Comes down to a couple of things. I talked about this with Steve Spurrier Friday. He wears a visor, and he was a Steve Spurrier fan growing up. And his wife's his ex-wife's father was a starting quarterback at Florida. Those are the only reasons I can tell you. And I think a year and a half ago, Lane Kiffin let it be known that maybe he was interested, but by the time the job didn't come around, I think he was happier where he was. So it's a conundrum, Matt, like everything else that we talk about, based on very little fact.
Yeah, it goes to and you and I have had this conversation, and it begs to be talked about again, because we're going to get to another game here in a minute, that when this day and age in social media, in chatter, when you throw all in on one guy, right? This is the guy we want. This is the guy we want. Lane Kiffin, Lane Kiffin, Lane Kiffin, Lane Kiffin. Well, if Tom Smith gets the job, then it's not Lane Kiffin. That guy starts already with a strike against him because he wasn't the big shiny toy that everybody wanted to begin with. And therein lies the issue with, like, I'm telling you right now, the Arkansas opening with Sam Pittman, which happened after, I believe, were we on last week? They all went together. We were sleeping.
Right after we went off.
Yeah. So the Sam Pittman situation at Arkansas. Do you know how many names have already been connected to Arkansas, which have been, so what if it isn't John Sumrall? What if it isn't Rhett Lashley? What if it isn't John Gruden? Like, it starts this conversation of, you guys just name three guys that probably aren't going to take the job. Maybe Rhett will because of his connection to the program, but it's just, we get into this conversation. It just, let it breathe.
I had a fan approach me Friday and said, you know, who do you like? And I go, I don't know. I said, who do you like? He said, my top two choices are John Gruden and Ed Ogeron. I'm like going, okay, good. I mean, and by the way, yeah, Ogeron, the farther he gets away from his coaching days, perhaps the more, I'm sure he's already gone through all his money, so he might need the job. I don't know whether he's hireable. And Gruden is an enigma, Matt. There's so many things out there about John Gruden. Can you parachute him into a college football program? He's never coached. I'm not trying to compare him to Belichick, but Belichick couldn't look any more clueless. Is Gruden going to be better?
Yeah. I mean, look, he might infuse a little more energy into a program. Belichick always looks like he's half awake from a nap. Belichick permanently looks like I feel on Sunday mornings with no sleep, permanently. Yeah, it is. It's funny. Like all these names that come about. I'll give you one thing before we move on to actual games. You know what program I could see kicking the tires on Orgeron, which I think would be a fascinating story? Remember when our pal Lane Kiffin was dismissed? Who was the interim coach who thought he was getting the job at USC?
It was Ed Orgeron.
What job is open in LA that just happens not to like USC?
Across the street?
UCLA. If there was ever a moment where they wanted to infuse some energy and everything in between, that'd be an entertaining hire. But that's just for message board fodder, just to throw some chum in the water for people to enjoy it.
You want this, you got that. No way, watch